Welcome to Madani Shamsuddin's Critique, the channel where we make literary theory simple, clear, and accessible to everyone. I am your host, and today we are starting at the very beginning with the most fundamental question in all of the literary studies. What is literature? It sounds like a simple question, but as you will see today, scholars have been debating it for centuries, and the debate is still very much alive. So let's dive in. The big question: when scholars try to define literature, they usually reach for certain key words. Words like representation, expression, knowledge, and language and form. Each of these words points to a different way of thinking about what literature is and what it does. In the history of literary theory, four major schools of thought have developed around these ideas, and each one gives a very different answer to our question. Let's look at them one by one. The four classic theories, one of them is the mimetic theory. So the first theory is mimetic, from the Greek word mimesis, meaning imitation. According to this view, literature mirrors reality. It holds up, as the saying goes, a mirror to nature. Think of a novel that describes everyday life in vivid, realistic detail that is mimetic in literature. Or we can say that is mimetic literature. The second theory is expressive. Here, literature is not about the external word, but about the inner word of the author. It reflects the soul, the feelings, the personal vision of the writer. This is the idea behind romantic poetry, the poet pouring their heart onto the page. The third theory is didactic, meaning teaching. This view says literature exists to give us knowledge, wisdom, and moral lessons, and importantly, it is compatible with both mimetic and expressive ideas. Literature can mirror the word and teach us something at the same time. The fourth theory is formalist. This one is different. It says, forget about all reality, forget about the author, forget about moral lessons. What makes literature special is its language, its form, its rhythm, its metaphors, its poetic effects. They say literature is a special kind of writing. We will come back to this in a moment. Uh, we have Abrams' triangle. A very useful tool for organizing these four theories was developed by the scholar M.H. Abrams in his 1953 book, The Mirror and the Lamp. Abrams drew a simple diagram with four key elements: the universe, the artist, the audience, and the work itself. Each theory gives most importance to a different relationship between these four elements. So we have mimetic theory focuses on the relationship between the work and the universe itself, literature as a reflection of external reality. Expressive theory focuses on the link between the work and the artists, literature as a reflection of the inner life of the writer, we can say. Didactic theory highlights the connection between the work and the audience, literature as something that teaches us. And formalist theory focuses entirely on the work itself, the text, the language, the form, with less interest in reality, the author, or the reader. This is a simple but very powerful map of literary theory, so I advise students to keep it in mind as we continue. We have formalism and literariness. Let's spend a moment on formalism because it is a very important notion for understanding 20th century literary criticism. Formalists asked, what is it that makes a text literary? What separates a poem from a newspaper article? Their answer was a concept called literariness, the special quality of literary language. They said it comes from a specific, let's say, poetic devices, alteration, for example, assonance, metaphor, paradox, rhythm, and, for example, a rhyme. So writers like Edgar Allan Poe and Gerard Manley Hopkins were early explorers of this idea. Later movements like the New Criticism in the United States and Slavic Formalism in Russia built entire schools of literary study around it. Their argument was this: if we justify literature by saying it accurately depicts reality, then we put it in competition with science, journalism, and photography. The competition literature cannot win, but if we focus on how literature uses language, its unique form, then it stands alone above all other types of writing. And we have now post modern theories. Now, Abrams' diagram was very useful, but it had a limitation. It stopped at modernism. It did not account for the new theoretical movement that came after. So let's look at the four major postmodern responses. So we have these four aspects. The first one is structuralism, says that literature is a system of genres built on codes and conventions. For example, a haiku, for example, follows strict rules about syllables. These conventions are not natural, they are social agreements. This reconnects literature to society. We have post structuralism and deconstruction, and this make us remember Jacques Derrida. So go even further. They argue that language itself does not transparently reflect reality. Language is full of rhetorical devices that distort meaning. This challenges all earlier theories of literature. Discourse theory, as a third theory, a modern theory, associated with thinkers like Michel Foucault, Mikhail Bakhtin, traces literary language back to everyday social life. Literature, they say, is shaped by history, power, culture, and the social position of the writer. And finally, cultural critique, the dominant approach today. It moves the focus from the literary text to society itself, to politics, representation, gender, race, and power. The crisis of reference, one of the most important and most challenging ideas in modern theory, is what scholars call the crisis of reference. Here is the core idea: words are not things. When I write BIRD, those four letters are not natural feather creatures or creature. The word is separated from the reality, it points out. In linguistics, we distinguish between three things: the signifier, which is the word, the letters, the sounds, and the signified, the concept or the mental image in our mind, and the referent, the actual thing in the real world. Post structuralists argue that signifiers are floating, they are never fully anchored to reality. Language deals in effects, it simulates things, but it cannot capture them directly. What does this mean for literature? It means we cannot be certain that literature truly reflects reality or delivers reliable knowledge. Its truth claims become unstable. And this is a challenging idea, but a deeply important one in contemporary literary theory. Yeah, so what did we learn today? We learned that, okay, the question, what is literature, has no single answer. The answer depends entirely on which theoretical framework you use. We have four classic theories also: mimetic, expressive, didactic, and formalist. Each one privileges a different relationship between the work, the word, the author, and the reader. We have also the diagram of Abrams to map these theories using four elements: work, we have universe, we have artist, and we have the audience or the readers. We have postmodern movements such as structuralism, deconstruction, and discourse theory, challenged all earlier views and shifted literary study toward cultural critique. The crisis of reference reminds us that language is not a transparent window into reality. Words are separated from things, and this puts all of literature's truth claims into question. Uh, in our next episode, we will look at the other side of the coin. Maybe, yeah, how do we read literature? We'll explore theories of interpretation from close reading to reader response theory and beyond. That is for today's episode of Madani Shamsuddin's Me, the Humble Man critique. If you found this useful, please give the video a like. It really helps the channel grow. And if you want to follow along as we go deeper into literary theory, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. And yeah, drop your questions in the comments below. I read every single one. Share this video with a friend who loves literature or is studying it. See you in the next episode. Take care.